Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're looking at a fairly harsh reality hitting towns and cities right across the country, Ireland's double-shift dilemma. Let's get straight into it.
Take a look at this massive number, 2. Because 2 is the exact amount of jobs many Irish folks now need just to keep the lights on. It's a staggering figure sitting there, isn't it? We aren't talking about doing a quick nixer to save up for a week in the sun or a fancy new motor. We're talking about basic survival for the Irish working family. If you look around your workplace or chat with the parents down at the school gates, there's a massive chance a fair chunk of them are juggling 2 completely different jobs just to stay afloat. It's kind of become this quiet, exhausting norm right across the country.
So, Section 1, the cost of living pinch. Let's look at what's actually eating our salaries.
Now, look at how our salaries are being aggressively eaten up here. That massive, daunting chunk right there, that's dedicated just to keeping a roof over your head. Then, the next massive slice gets swallowed by the heating, the broadband, the bins, and the car insurance. And see that tiny little fraction left over at the absolute bottom? That is your groceries, the kids' school uniforms, and maybe, just maybe, a quiet pint on a Friday if you're incredibly lucky. It's a stark, undeniable visual of how far a typical Irish wage actually stretches these days, which is to say, barely anywhere at all, to be honest.
And this comparison perfectly illustrates the massive divide we're seeing right now. You've got hard-working renters sprinting on a treadmill just to stand still, while the cost of a gaff and daily bills soar away like a hot air balloon. It's essentially a tale of 2 very different Irelands. On one side, you have the working renter putting in the hard graft, but their purchasing power is completely stagnant. And on the other side, you have the relentless, aggressive rise of the housing market. That ever-widening gap between what families earn and what the market demands, well, that's the exact mechanism forcing people into taking on that second job.
Right, moving on to Section 2, rent-eating salaries. The absolute main culprit in all of this.
When you look at the sheer weight of rent and bills stacked up here, it completely validates why everyone is feeling the pinch so severely. Look at that single salary column on the left. It is entirely dwarfed by the towering heights of current living costs. It's a brilliant, if utterly depressing visual of the anxiety hitting the kitchen table every single month. The wages drop into the bank account, and before they can even gather dust, they vanish straight to the landlord and the energy providers. You literally just cannot make the maths work on a single standard income in many parts of the country right now.
Which brings us to Section 3, side hustle survival. It really has become a structural necessity.
If we break down the maths of a typical week here, the sheer exhaustion is obvious in black and white. You've got your standard 40 hours for the main gig. Add the hours lost commuting because, sure look, we all know the traffic and transport delays are a serious drain on our time. Then you pile those side hustle hours right on top. We're talking taking on weekend shifts in a local petrol station or delivering takeaways in a lashing rain at 10 o'clock at night. Lads, there are only 168 hours in a week. When you subtract all this work, the commute, and try to get a bit of kip, where is the time for family? Where is the time to literally just sit down, make a cup of tea, and breathe?
This brings us directly to a stark, heavy reality for the modern Irish worker that we pulled straight from the data. Just think about the phrase, a full-time job is simply not enough anymore. Let that sink in for a second. Imagine telling previous generations that working a solid 40-hour week in a decent job wouldn't be enough to put a roof over your head and keep the fridge stocked. It completely shifts our whole understanding of the social contract here in Ireland. We were always told, put your head down, do a fair day's work, and you'll be grand, but the rules of the game have entirely changed.
So, Section 4, burnout and exhaustion. We're looking at an entire workforce running on fumes.
People are absolutely knackered, suffering from deep burnout and exhaustion because human beings simply aren't built to work a double shift indefinitely. The Irish workforce is quite literally running on fumes. When you finish your day job at 5, only to log on to a gig economy app or pull pints at the local until midnight, your body and mind are eventually going to just say, stop. We aren't machines, are we? The chronic stress of never having a day off, of always being on the clock, is causing severe physical and mental exhaustion across working families. It's definitely not a badge of honor to be working 70 hours a week just to survive. It's a full-blown crisis.
And finally, Section 5, the long-term social effect. What this means for our hollowing communities.
When you stack up these brutal compounding pressures, from rent-eating wages all the way down to chronic exhaustion, it points towards a deeply concerning long-term social effect for the Irish family. Think about the massive knock-on effects here. Are parents going to be too exhausted to raise their kids properly or help out with the homework?
Are our local communities going to hollow out entirely because nobody has the time or the energy to volunteer at the local GA club or the Tidy Towns Committee? The social cost of this economic reality is immense. We're stripping away the time people have to actually live, connect, and participate in society, all just to satisfy the relentless demands of the housing market.
So we leave you with this final provocative thought. Are single-job families becoming a thing of the past in Ireland? It's an incredibly heavy question to confront, but based on the stark realities we've mapped out in this explainer today, we really need to take a long, hard look at what kind of society we want to live in. Thanks a million for joining me to break this down today. Mind yourselves out there, and I will catch you on the next one.